Welcome to In Case You Missed It, the fifth and latest instalment of our half-hour headlong dash through some of the highlights that we at VAST have come across in the last month. I'm Tom, Strategic Liaison Officer here at VAST.
And I'm Jess Johal, Project Support Officer at VAST.
Thanks for volunteering to present, Jessie. Now, I get the pleasure of working with a whole team of people at VAST who are all super committed to supporting communities. You're quite new to the team, so tell us a bit about your role and your first impressions of working with the VTSE sector here in Stoke.
I've recently joined the support team at VAST to assist charities with governance, legal structures and funding. Working in the city has taught me that there are so many inspiring individuals doing incredible work. It's heartening to see how many people are willing to volunteer their time and expertise to support others. Another project that I've been involved in is building a connection with the Godwara in Stoke with VAST. Our support team has been helping them to look at some funding. They have been signed up as becoming a community health champion and a welcoming space. It's been a great opportunity for me to take my colleagues along to experience a different culture within the city, along with enjoying some delicious food made by the volunteers there.
What a privilege to work every day with brilliant change makers. But back to the podcast. Here's what's in store for this month's show.
As always, we'll bring news of current funding and contract opportunities, a spotlight on some of the headline developments locally and nationally, opportunities for our sector to shape and influence what our colleagues in the health and local government are doing, and some key dates to jot down in your diary. Now, before we move on, and as we always say, we do know it can be tough to keep abreast of all the news from around the sector. We can't fit in all the ongoings on into what's really the length of a short lunchtime walk, but we hope that we can get you closer to the little details that will make a difference in your work.
We're fortunate every day to work with really knowledgeable and well-connected people, and some of what we cover you may already know about. But the clue's in the name, and we hope you'll hear that useful something that's all too easily missed or forgotten amongst the huge volume of news and goings on.
We're aiming to give you just enough to judge what might be useful to you so that you can go away fully equipped to find out more for yourself. Here's the key thing. We won't be talking about any one theme in great detail, so please do take a look at the show notes and there will be a link for everyone we cover.
You can find the show notes underneath the video on YouTube and on SoundCloud below the playback graphic. Don't forget, if you have anything you'd like to tell the sector about, we can give you space to say it in a future podcast. Do drop us a line if that feels like it could be handy for you.
In the meantime, feel free to make a cuppa, grab lunch, catch a bus, or take a walk out in the sun. And in the next half an hour, we'll talk you through some of what we've been noticing in the sector this month.
First up, funding in 5. This is our regular roundup of contract and funding opportunities currently available to VTSEs here in Stoke-on-Trent or within a stone's throw of the city. Several grant funding opportunities are currently being promoted, including a couple of sizable opportunities to support armed forces veterans and their families. So again, check the show notes for the appropriate links. We talked through several opportunities in last month's podcast, and one or two of those are still open too.
We'll start with the big one, which is pitched specifically at charities and social housing providers who support armed forces veterans. The Armed Forces Covenant Fund Trust has capital grants of between 75,000 and 100,000 to enable refurbishments, extension and new builds of rental accommodation that will offer high quality support for veterans with a housing need. The closing date for this one is the 18th of June, and you will need to submit an expression of interest by then. If the funder thinks your project might be the one they can support, they'll invite you to prepare a full application by the 10th of December for a final decision in February 2026.
Warburton's Families Matter Community Grants programme provides small grants to support charitable organisations towards delivering activities which improve health, place, or skills for families in their community. It offers £400 with quarterly deadlines in February, May, August, and November. The decisions are made locally at the nearest Warburton's depot or bakery, and in our case, that's in Stone, so it's a good chance to use your loaf and really talk up your local strengths.
Tesco's Strongest Starting Fund offers any non-for-profit organisation grants thanks to the blue token voting by Tesco customers.
So that not-for-profit could be charities, schools, football clubs, guides, or scouts, or any community groups.
Yeah, exactly. And you could raise between £500 and £1,500. They're currently prioritising projects that support children's food security and health.
Connecting People and Communities grants of up to £1,000 are new from Barchester's Charitable Foundation, and they're available to community health professionals, community groups, and registered charities that combat isolation and loneliness and enable older people and adults with disabilities to be active and engaged. Funding is available to support activities and outings, as well as mobility equipment for individuals. There's currently no published deadline, so get applying when the time is right for you.
That sounds like the right cue to remind everyone that help is available.
Yes, do drop us a line or send an email to support@vast.org.uk and we'll be glad to talk about how we can help you.
As ever, the contact details are in the show notes. VAST also maintains a vault of current and ongoing funding opportunities, including the ones we've mentioned, which you can find on our website. There's currently a handful of fresh or ongoing opportunities to supply the local authority and NHS. Public sector contract opportunities do sometimes require familiarity with a range of different processes, which, as ever, we'll try and explain briefly as we talk. If you need a little more help in making sense of it all, then contact us by emailing support@vast.org.uk.
In the long run, we're pushing for more approachable process, and we know that the statutory agencies like the councils and NHS do want to help make this happen. Slowly but surely, change is coming, partly due to recent legal changes, and also because we're working with the City Council through the VCSE City Alliance to enable the sector to shape this change. If you'd like to be involved in a series of workshops that are taking place through 2025, then there's a link to more information about the VCSE City Alliance in the show notes.
Back to the contracts. And if you're new to these kinds of opportunity, then it's worth being aware that some of them do stick around for a long while others come and go in as little as a month or even a fortnight. It's not a bad idea to spend a few months getting familiar with the pace of things and what tends to be required before dipping your toes in for the first time.
So first up this month, Stoke-on-Trent City Council is looking for a supplier of migration support services to support all migrants to the city, including asylum seekers and refugees. This includes legal advice and assistance in accordance with the relevant legislation. The contract will last a maximum of 3 years subject to funding, and it's worth up to £75,000 per annum, excluding VAT.
Staffordshire County Council currently have a range of opportunities to supply day services, residential care services and supported living for people with a range of age and disability related needs. There's what's called a framework for day services for people aged 65 and over, with a bidders day taking place on the 8th of May and a dynamic purchasing system for supported living services for people aged 16 and over with a learning disability, autistic spectrum condition or mental health condition.
That's really interesting, and you used two quite technical terms there, Jessie.
So the first one was dynamic purchasing system, or DPS. Really, when you see a DPS mentioned, it means that opportunities like the ones we've mentioned don't close anytime soon. You're applying to register your services with the council or health, and if you're successful, then you become eligible to supply them for a period of several years. alongside other providers. It's no guarantee of work or income, but it can be a useful way to establish a supply relationship and grow your income generation.
And similar to the DPS is the other approach that Jessie mentioned called a framework. Frameworks do close for applications, so while you're applying to be one of several suppliers, like with the DPS, you're also working to a very clear deadline, and once the deadline passes, you're either in or out, depending on the success of your application.
Again, if you're just starting out and you don't feel totally certain about whether these opportunities are really for you or your organisation, please do reach out and we'll do our best to help see you through the fog. The language around this can be incredibly confusing, and if you're new to it, so if you're just beginning to wonder whether it might be for you and your organisation, or if you're unsure about the differences between dynamic purchasing system and a flexible framework, then we can work with you and help you to make sense of the landscape.
That's what we're here for. When it comes to the way councils plan and buy services, there are lots of new legal changes that are just bedding in, so it's not a bad time to start getting your head around things, especially as those changes do challenge public sector buyers to reduce barriers.
When organisations share with us what they're unsure or uncertain about, that's what helps us to improve the support we offer. So in other words, do just pick up the phone and let's have a chat. Next up, we bring you some of our monthly spotlights. These are about opportunities arising from key programmes and projects that are just getting going or begin to make a splash in the city and sometimes beyond.
Now, we do tend to give these developments more airtime and do them more justice at forums like VISCOG, that's our Voluntary Sector Chief Officers Group, and the Healthy Communities Alliance. There's really no substitute for a proper lowdown, but here's a quick whiz through what's new and what's gathering pace.
It's a big year for Stoke-on-Trent as 2025 marks our centenary as a city. A few of the highlights for the months ahead include...
We're brewing up a very special world record attempt as we attempt to hold the world's biggest tea party. There will be opportunities to volunteer in support of City 100 events across the city, and details of all of these things can be found in the link in the show notes.
You might also have heard of One Stoke, which is a collaborative initiative to help build a more united city. This will see lots of community-led projects happening this year, and we'll be spotlighting some of those in a future podcast. Again, please check the link in the show notes to get a heads up on the One Stoke project.
This month, there are a couple of new opportunities to shape the work of our colleagues in local and national government. These are our chances as a sector to both feed in our views and insights and to make sure that our communities and beneficiaries can also be heard as new initiatives take shape and as decisions are made.
Disability Solutions are among the Stoke-on-Trent charities encouraging local people and organisations to have your say and help to shape the future of our welfare and support system. A new green paper from the government is called Pathways to Work, reforming benefits and support to getting Britain working. And they want to hear from a wide range of people, in particular people with disabilities and health conditions and disability organisations. The consultation seeks views on the approaches government should consider around reform of the health and disability benefit system and employment support. The consultation closes on the 30th of June 2025.
Stoke-on-Trent City Council is developing a new children and young people strategy to help improve the lives and opportunities of children, young people and families across the city. The aim is to ensure that every child has the opportunity to grow up healthy, safe and supported, regardless of their background or circumstances. Whether you're a parent, carer, young person, teacher, healthcare professional or community member, the Council would like to hear from you to help shape their priorities and actions over the next 5 years. The consultation closes on 16th of May.
The City Council is also organising a Frailty Conference, which is scheduled for 16th of June 2025. This is intended to shape the future of local services for people experiencing frailty. So jot the date down and look out for the details on our VAST website or social media.
Lastly, VAST is pleased to announce that we'll be producing a State of the Sector report later in the year, our first since 2021. Our colleagues at Support Staffordshire do this every 2 years, and they recently launched their report. We've put a link to that in the show notes, but we'd like to ask those of you in Stoke about what you need.
2025 is a timely vantage point to reflect on the times of continuing change and challenge for our VCSE sector. 5 years have passed since the news broke of Britain's COVID-19 lockdown. A lot has happened in that time, but on an optimistic note, there is arguably a rising tide of support for the increased collaboration. It is evident here in the city through the VCSC City Alliance, in the health system with the Healthy Communities Alliance, and nationally in the form of the new Civil Society Covenant announced last October. And lots of other key programmes are breaking new ground locally, like Family Matters and the Locality Improvement Framework.
So with all that change, our State of the Sector report is about where we now find ourselves. It will reflect similar documents published on a regular basis by VAST's many counterparts regionally and across the UK. And we want to enable like-for-like comparisons and give readers the tools to form an informed picture of where our sector stands in a wider context.
But we also want to make sure that the finished report is as helpful as possible in describing the state of the Stokes VCSE sector in 2025. For this reason, we would love for you to share your thoughts in the way that makes most sense to you. So ahead of your questionnaire going out, we are asking for your opinion. What are the most important questions that VAST should ask of the VCSE sector in order to form the truest possible picture of our current position?
And what particular insights about our sector would you most value in order to support you in your work as a charity, as a social enterprise leader, a commissioner, a councillor, a funder or decision maker?
Follow the link in the show notes and help shape the final report.
Next up, we've got some upcoming dates for your diary.
The University of Staffordshire's Centre for Health and Development, CHAD, and the Faculty of Public Health have a webinar coming up on Monday, the 19th of May at 12 o'clock, which is one of the series around health and social inequalities. It will look at dementia, gendered relationships and care. Delivering the webinar is Dr. Ed Tolhurst, who is Associate Professor of Dementia, Ageing and Care at the University of Staffordshire.
Sounds really interesting. Deaf5 UK is running a free 15-year anniversary event celebrating its work over the last 15 years from 10 till 4 on Friday the 9th of May. It's for deaf, deaf-blind and hard of hearing and people with sight loss, friends, families, carers and professionals. It's going to be equipment demonstrations, information and advice, and even an accessible tour of the stadium. All in all, sounds like a great day.
We told you in a previous podcast about the Integrated Care System's new Down Syndrome Forum, and there's a lovely feature on their YouTube channel about the first meeting, which looks like it was a real success. At the meeting, people with Down syndrome and their parents and carers shared the experiences of health, social care and education, housing and employment services in the Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent with each other, and professionals who work in the services. Professionals from across the ICS were able to get a better understanding of the barriers that exist between the local services for people with Down syndrome, and they're aiming in the future to improve services for the people with Down syndrome. Follow the link in the show notes for the film and for the details of how to get involved.
It's never a bad time to check the VAST listings for the very latest training and networks taking place during 2025.
Events and training coming up include governance on the 12th of June, managing volunteers on the 19th of June, and much more besides. The majority of our training and events are free for our member organisations, and indeed membership of VAST is also free.
There's more than we have the space to mention in a short podcast, so thankfully there's a full list of our in-house training and event opportunities on our website. As we've said, it's added to throughout the year, so keep on checking back. Huge thanks for sticking with us as we slalomed through the month's news. Last but not least, we'd really love to welcome guest hosts and contributions to In Case You Missed It, offering a short segment for our members and partners to talk briefly about something you're working on or developing. As always, we'd love it to be a bit less us and a bit more you, and so please do get in touch if you'd like to join us.
So, all good things must come to an end. How was the show for you? We'd love to hear just a little bit of feedback on how we can improve the podcast for you. And there's a link to the feedback form in the show notes.
The next podcast will be out in about 6 weeks' time. So in the meantime, it's goodbye from me.
And cheerio from me. Thanks for listening.